Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And I was sitting here thinking, as we were about to get started, that we should probably definitely talk about the election more, right?
Oh yeah.
No, I thought we weren't. That wasn't the topic we were going to cover. I thought. Brian's jacket was a dead giveaway.
To our team, would they rather talk about that or let it snow?
There it is. There it is.
Go.
Actually, we should take a poll sometime. If which would you rather do? Talk about the snow season coming or watch more election-related commercials?
I will take the snow season, and that's
for sure.
For sure.
Every day, all day. There's not even a ratio on that.
There's not even a question.
Brian's
in my
dressed
mind,
for the weather.
so.
It's gotten a little chilly now, and got us thinking.
I mean, it's only the middle of November, and yesterday was shorts and t-shirt weather. I mean, this is a little funky.
Yeah, I mean, we probably have maybe a marginally different definition of shorts and t-shirts weather.
Brian's got 3 layers on.
I feel like it's not snow weather though. It doesn't feel like snow weather. It doesn't feel like there's even remotely a possibility of seeing it soon. And yet here we are, the middle of November, and we know it's coming, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We think it's coming.
We believe it's coming.
We believe it's.
It was funny though. This morning I was looking out the window, and they were those little, I don't know what they come off the oak trees, those little spinners or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But because the wind was blowing so hard, they were kind of looking a little bit like
It looked
some
like flakes.
And I'm like, there is no possible way based on temperature. The neighbor's literally paving his driveway. There is no way that's the case. But it just, you could just see something in the air, and you're like, what the heck is going on here?
Well, the skier in me has got me watching. It snowed.
Yeah.
They started making snow up in Vermont. It snowed a few times. It's snow out west. There's snow
out west,
very far north.
I saw some like New Mexico and
very far north. Northern Vermont has snow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's coming in theory.
I was sitting at a lacrosse tournament in Maryland this weekend. Actually, I didn't realize it, but I don't think it's that far from a place you hang out. And we got a little sleet Sunday, late morning, early afternoon. Yeah, when it turned over, some light rain and a little bit of sleet was bouncing off the hood of the car while we were trying to stay warm. So it was like a seasonal reminder that can pop
it's
up.
around the corner.
It is,
so it's going to be. I mean, this year, there's not going to be a whole lot of change. A little bit of change, not a whole lot of change. We'll maintain both Glaxos. We'll maintain Vanguard. We're going to shift out of East and pick up a different property that's very close to there. And it's a little bit of a better makeup for us. I think it localizes some of the guys into Central and West. And then, we're not going to proceed with Morgantown. So we're trying to keep everything really close, and the guys in bunches there with the Vanguard site and then Glaxo. It's everything we know. The other property is going to be real simple. I showed it to a couple of guys, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is an easy property in terms of it's an old style." Ford and I often refer to things as an old style property. I don't know, Ford, do you want to sort of explain that? What happens in an older property?
Well, an older property, many things happen, but one is there's big open spaces of macadam.
Right.
Now we have all this trend where there's this walking path in the middle of it, and there's weeds growing, and then there's bumper blocks everywhere because they don't want to have edges and curbs and stuff like that.
Is that? I just thought about it. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but is that an ADA thing? Are those sidewalks?
I think it's
to
most
nowhere?
of it's stormwater.
It's stormwater.
Stormwater.
It's all stormwater related.
Yeah. I didn't know if because now that you're thinking about it, a lot of properties have that. They have the little.
Bump outs here,
bump outs with the grass, and sidewalks go across them. And I was like, it doesn't, you're not walking to anywhere. You're walking across the parking lot.
And everyone knows nobody even walks on those.
No.
But it's literally a ability to catch stormwater that they didn't used to make you do. I mean, if you think about an old parking lot, say a mall from the 80s.
Yeah.
It's just blacktop from one side to the other. There might be some light poles here and there.
All curbed in.
Yes.
And now, every 20 feet, there's a bump and a change where they all of a sudden now want you to do 45 parking on one side and 30 on the other and all this kind of stuff, either to fit more spaces or to, create some green space in it or whatever it is.
Okay.
And that just creates a lot more labor and work to try and clean around it. And the other thing is we like solid curb because you can edge up against it and not damage it and not damage your machine.
Sure.
Curb stops, they just disappear with the snow when you're running big equipment. And so when they do the curb stops, because they want the water to go trickle down, supposedly, it just creates a bigger challenge for the team doing the work.
Yeah. Sure. So the one new job is going to be more. It's an older style parking lot, so that's good for us equipment wise. we just continue to try and hone in on what it is we do in snow, right? Focus
Was
on.
it amazing how many different like RFPs you got this year? And like, it's crazy for a couple things. Two things. One is there's so much out there. Two is that like the people that want us to be interested, we've told them in face-to-face meetings in many different formats that we have a very specific thing that we want to do.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And every time it's like they either think we're going to forget or they forget, and they send us stuff that like we just won't like. We know what we're good at, and we want to stay with that. And there's enough of that work for what we want to do, but we're not taking on these other things that are going to make it more difficult for our team.
Well, and even size, size-wise, there was a project that location-wise made sense. Open parking lot made sense. But there was some technicalities of how the contract was written about what you owned and what you didn't. And Ford and I talked about it, and it just doesn't. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to do that project. So we turned down a lot of stuff. And it's the funnier part for me with the RFPs is they're all companies who are similar in age. There's a bunch of companies that are our age who all decided to really focus on snow and grew their snow business into something that we had no desire to do. We didn't. We actually realized the opposite. I think when we got our biggest, we realized this wasn't what we wanted to do, and that we'd like it to be something that subsidizes when our guys can't work, and not the thing that we actually do.
Right. Yeah. I think that's important too. So I was going to talk about like how snow has transformed for us since Ford started doing snow, right? I mean, when you started doing snow, you did a lot of the things that we have no interest in doing, right?
Oh yeah.
They start with an H.
Well, yeah. Well, there was personal driveways. There was
homeowners associations.
I mean, there's basically when you start, you got to take whatever's available to you, and you realize through trial and error that they're just not the appropriate place for our team and for the kind of equipment we have.
Yeah.
That also helped us get into some of the stuff that we found is a particular niche that is good for us.
Right. Yeah.
But
Size
yeah,
and
the old
scale,
school.
right? I mean, when you started, you did it for the same exact reasons a lot of contractors do snow. It is
revenue in the wintertime.
Revenue in the winter. It's when you can't do some of the other things that you want to or would rather be doing. And so like you said, you took what was the right size and you had the right stuff for, and over time you figured out that, and maybe even immediately, I don't know, I would say over time you figured out it wasn't what we wanted to do, but it might have been while you were doing it, you knew it wasn't what you wanted to do.
Yeah, there was a couple of years where like we got into new things and we kept the old things and realized the old things just weren't fitting in that ability for us to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
And then when we first got into our first larger site, we were a little underprepared at that point, but it's very simple. You move the snow, you get it out of the way, and the client's happy. There's a little bit more nuance to that than you realize, and we've learned a lot about that since then. But
sure.
I just remember we were doing that job, and we still had our old sites, and we go back after we got done the one to the other, and it was just it was too much, pushing people too much.
And I didn't actually realize that at that time.
That we were going back to still do
I
those
didn't
stuff.
realize at the time that he was finishing up and then going back and doing a whole nother job, and the thing that I remember most about that initial interaction was Ford had a really nice vehicle for about a week. And then he had a dump truck that he drove. And so his vehicle went away. He came back with
didn't sit at home and know it got traded in on a dump truck.
It didn't stay at home.
Yeah.
It left. And I was like, what happened to your vehicle? And he's like, I had to trade it in. I needed this truck. And I was like, all right, well that's but that's where he was even at that point. He's always,
sure.
and that hasn't changed. Ford is always willing to move on from what he has to invest in the company to try and build the next thing, do the next thing.
Right.
And so that's interesting. You know, as we're talking about, I always think about anytime we talk about snow too, especially at the beginning, is Rob, is Grafe. And I can't use as colorful a language as him, but he talked to us early on about the impact snow could have on your company, both positive and negative, because it's simultaneous. If you do really well in snow, that's positive, but the impact to your company can be negative. And he just said you couldn't become subservient to snow. He didn't use that word, but that you couldn't become a slave to it, where that you needed the snow and you couldn't exist without it. And so in that sense, that was something that Ford and I always really focused on, was that to try and maintain it, that we didn't need the snow. It is nice when it works, but that we didn't need it. It wasn't our model. Our model was to go do earthwork and utilities and everything else we do. And if we're able to, if the weather is such that we can't do our regular work, but we can do that, then good.
Well, I think the real thing that, like, hours of snow, we always talk about, it's a little bit challenging, times, all that kind of stuff. But when you really boil it down, it is about getting, in the Northeast where we are, getting the team members hours at times where we might not be able to because we can't do our other work.
Yeah.
That really is the crux of it. It does a lot of other good things and bad things as far as for the company. But the bottom line is, if it's too frozen that we can't be out doing dirt work, people can't get their hours, all of a sudden. But this is an opportunity to provide another option so they can still get healthy paychecks during that slower season in our area. And sometimes that gets kind of lost in the wash, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, I think that we still do it for the same reason, essentially, that you started doing it. Right. I mean, a big chunk of our work changes over the winter months at times, depending on the availability of projects, the type of work that's being done, the weather, whether or not it's actually cooperative. And we are, like, generally speaking, we have never been in one of those businesses that just tells people to go home for the 3 months, right? We don't say, like, hey, look, we're done in December, come back in March. We don't do that. And I think there's a lot of positives in that for our folks. They still get pretty regular paychecks. They still get pretty regular hours. And truthfully, that's better than they would do if they were on unemployment. It's better for their families, the consistency. Many times they still get the opportunity for overtime and things of that nature, even though the winter months normally would not have provided that opportunity at other places. So I think we do it for a lot of the right reasons. But the stress of it at times, it used to be that it felt like, at least when it snowed enough to stop everything else, right? That's how it used to feel. And whether we're just in some seasonal pattern changes, whether it's
Al Gore was right.
Yeah, global warming or climate change, or if the averages have just been different, and I don't know. I'm in a that's a
different podcast.
That's a different topic for a different conversation for a different
in our
day.
Next podcast, climate change.
Yeah. Back to the election. No, so but I think that, like, that's made it more challenging.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
nuisance factor of it, and the other thing that goes right along with that factor of wanting it to snow enough, and we talk about that it shuts things down.
Yeah.
Both for our own jobs, for our folks, so that they don't have to try and go to work after going to work, but also just for the convenience of it, that it's shut down. But the other factor is there is an inconsistent nature to it of when you want it to snow, right? Because you would think, what's really convenient is if it could snow between like 8 and 2 every day, and we're cleaned up by 5, and you really didn't work any different, except that is the worst time for it to snow, because it means everybody's there. It's harder to clear it. You're
going to hang out longer to clean.
It is bad for the company. It is bad for risk. It is bad for the employees that are there working at the site. Everything about it is bad. Really, you want it to snow 7:00 at night. Everybody's home. They've eaten dinner. Everybody's going to go to bed. Yeah. You're going to work all night. You're just going to work that graveyard overnight shift.
Right.
And then you'll have it cleaned up by 6 a.m. and you go home at 7, and it messes with you. But from a actual performance standpoint, it's so much easier for the team when that happens. When you're trying to work and everybody's there, it gets much more difficult.
Yeah, especially in those nuisance snow situations, right?
1 to 2 inches, just an ankle biter type scenario.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think that we've had over time, at different times, depending on the season and depending on the schedules, but it really does build a camaraderie amongst, like, if you're on a site with a certain group of team, and like you might not see that other team members at the same time because they're on a different dirt crew, but you're on the same snow crew, and you just get some time.
Sure.
The interesting thing with snow is that there's a lot of downtime that you're still on the site for. And so you're either waiting for the next cleanup or whatever the scenario is. And a lot of times you just get to know your teammates better and stuff like that. You're sitting in trucks, keeping warm or whatever the scenario is. And it really does create some closeness, a close-knit team from that perspective that is kind of always fun to see coming out of the spring because people get to kind of interact with each other in a different environment.
Yeah. The thing that I think is always most difficult is like how, for our guys, the inconsistency of the schedule once it starts to snow in regards to how that we ask them to task change. That's always, I think, one of the hardest things that we have to deal with. And we've done a lot better job in recent years, I think. They might not always perceive that, but I think that we've done a lot better job of trying to structure how we ask them to perform their responsibilities.
It is the most difficult thing in snow is that management of people, including ourselves, in how you approach the work. Because we always go into it with some idea that we're going to like, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to stage 2 crews.
Yeah.
And then one crew is going to work and then the second crew is going to come in. But if it really snows, you can't, that's a bad idea. Like we've had people get in accidents. And I can think of 2 or 3 specific examples that the people either asked to come in later and said like, I'll be fine, or said, I'm going to drive home and then I'll come back because I don't want to stay. I'd rather drive home and not get paid and be able to sleep in my bed for a couple hours and then take a shower and come back than I would stay here. And it's one of those things you see something bad happen. And I feel bad because that's the reason that I do it, and I always stress that to the guys. I'm not trying to make you be there for 18 hours because I want you to work 18 hours.
Sure.
What I don't want is you to end up driving home or coming in late and running into a problem and going from having to work a shift that you don't like, doing something you don't normally do, to not having a car. And that becomes really tricky, because we try and manage it by staging on site. But
another part is that makes the other people, if you're unable to get back because of an accident or the roads are closed or any of those type of things, that makes your other teammates have to shoulder more because you're not available to help them. And it'd be easier if everybody's available at the same time versus the other scenario. Like, we'll tell the story, 9 days never went home because that was what the storm we were in. It was just slept in my truck for a couple hours and kept on working. But that was a different time when we had a lot of snow. But being on site and not having to go out was safer. Because we actually sent crews home back then. And one of them, because it's amazing. You're up all night. It's cold. You got the window down. You got your music blaring, keeping you awake because you're not used to it. That sun pops up at 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, starts heating up your cab. There's been times, I've gotten better over time, but I'll just pull over, take a quick cat nap or something like that. Because even you're done the work, you're ready to go home, but just that,
your body shuts it down. Just
your body knows you're done
earlier than you needed it to. You're like, because you're done,
right?
And I don't know what other people do. I know Ford and I both do the same thing though. Like I'm driving home, the heat's not on. I got my windows open. Like it can snow in the truck because that's the point at which something's going to go wrong. Because now I know we're okay.
Sure.
And I'm just, I mentally, you're like, okay, I'm done. And that is very different from your normal work day when you're done. And you've worked a 10-hour day and the guys have been, in a trench all day. And that's hard, but it's not the same as what happened when you were in and out of the cold. And it was probably more like 15 hours than it was 10 hours in a best case scenario, so all those things add up and it weighs on you, and it is the hard part of snow. Snow's not easy,
right?
It's not an easy thing. I still think at times it can be fun when it really snows, when it really snows and things are going right and you're getting it done. It's hard to see that kind of progress in our jobs daily. You know what I mean? To see that much delta that, the guys will move more dirt, right? So this is like the funny part. If you take like a job like Brad's or DCSWA or Secra, I'm picking those because that was big chunks of earth that got moved.
Right.
And they moved more dirt a day than, or close to what we would move in a snowstorm. But it isn't the same because you're not done. All you're done is this little piece. But when you're done with snow, if it snowed 10 inches, there was 10 inches of snow on the ground and now there's 10 inches everywhere else and nothing where you are. You saw delta, you see change. You succeeded, you get out of there. But then when you leave, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm done. Mm-hmm. And then that's the point at which we've seen guys, you really realize how tired you are, you know what I mean? And how beat up you are from it.
Something both of you have touched on here in the last couple of minutes. It's made me think a little bit. Do you think that the demand has changed from a client-facing perspective over the amount of time that you've been, let's say 20 years, you've been doing snow 20 plus years. And I'm just wondering if the pace of work life, so to speak, has changed enough that the demand from our clients, our customers, as far as their employees being able to be at work, to like have the lots clear, all of those things, if that's impacted some of how we do this, or if that's always
100%. I mean, it's been 30 years actually. It goes 14, whatever, since the first time shoveling. But no, I mean, like, you see more accidents on the road because people feel they have to get out.
I gotta get to work.
Whatever that scenario is of where they have to go.
Right.
In the old days, maybe it's revisionist history, but snow day meant you stayed home. Like, you stayed home, not like, and then everybody that has all-wheel drive think they can drive anywhere they want to, which isn't exactly accurate. We've seen that happen a lot too.
The vehicle could drive anywhere.
Yeah, maybe not the driver.
Does the person have the skills to get the vehicle?
Are they qualified?
And the patience.
Right. The interesting thing is that, like, we've had this conversation with clients. The client's client is paying us for safety. They're not paying us for snow. They're paying us for safety.
Right.
But in doing that, we have to be self-advocates because we have to be safe and have our team safe too. So they want everything magically to happen. I mean, we the old saying, like, catch it coming out of the sky. Gladly. But, there's logistics involved in doing that. And sometimes that's a challenge because, the time of the snow, it starts snowing 2 a.m. We might have it clean by the time they come in at 7 or 8. It starts snowing at 6:30 in the morning. There is no physical way.
4:35, 4:30 or 5 that's the hour.
Sure.
Because we can be clean by the time, but we're cleaning it as they're there, and then they're like, "Well, it's not clean enough. It's not clean enough, quick enough, or whatever." It's like there is a certain amount of time based on the volume of the places we're working at where you can't have it done as it's coming down 100%.
Yeah, there aren't enough people and machines at times to ever accomplish like a pure black situation.
So that's
that's the rub.
When you just got to one of the two things that I think has changed. One is, as you've seen margin loss in snow as well, with what people are willing to pay, they haven't really lessened their expectation of what they want, but they have lessened what they're willing to pay, which then even in interactions in our scenario of dealing with a client's client, we say like, okay, well, that's true. But we have the advantage of we've been at this site for more than a decade. So yes, I could do that. But when I used to do that, you paid this. Now you want to pay less. So the result is going to be less equipment. If you want all of that equipment, I can certainly do that, but then we have to look at the pricing. But the other piece that I think has changed over the last 20 years is the sensitivity to materials, right? So they're changing of the parking lots, which makes it that their parking lots are very much more susceptible to damage. But B, them manage clients and people in general wanting to manage how much material is used in terms of de-icing, in terms of salt.
Yeah.
And trying to manage that. And then also managing, and I'm not calling anyone specifically out, but we would put down a lot of salt because we were instructed to do so. We were told, catch them before they hit the ground. So the way you do that is you use a lot of salt and it melts it all. And then eventually at some point, if the snowfall rate increases enough, it will stick, but it's melted underneath and you could push it right off and you're black again as soon as you push it. And then you put more salt.
More salt, right.
At some point, they stopped wanting to do that. But the other thing they did that I don't know that we've talked about it on the podcast, it was hilarious, was they told us we couldn't wash our equipment anymore. Because if you washed it, the salt would run off. And I would say, okay, but the only reason the salt is on the equipment is because it was all on I put it all on the ground.
Right,
we didn't get a sprayer and spray salt all over our equipment. It's there because of
collected it. We recollected it.
Like we're actually the victim here. Like you told us to do it. Now you're destroying our equipment because it's so salty. And that was one of the big learning curves that we had to deal with, was figuring out how to deal with that our equipment's getting wrecked because you can't wash it off.
There's not many team members still here that remember this, but remember that one job we did where they literally told us we had to rent a third-party site to hold the bulk material.
Yeah.
That was all then installed on this property, but we couldn't store the material on that property.
Yeah, they couldn't have more than X amount of tons on site.
They didn't want to see the lump The
No,
lump
it
sum,
wasn't. It
like
was.
the-
It had to do, according to them, it had to do with something with like literally their licensing of what they're allowed to do,
Oh,
and they weren't allowed to have that much salt on site.
But it could be they had
But-
more than that on the
But
ground.
they had more than that on. Well, I would fill up all the bins and then we'd empty them.
sure.
And I was
right.
like, but the salt's all on the ground. And they're like, and it was runoff. They weren't allowed to have a certain amount of. But I was like, but if I take the salt from somewhere else, put it here, and then all of a sudden your parking lot's black, where did the salt go? Like it ran off. So why not just store it here? But we couldn't. We rented another property, which infamously, you remember what happened to that property?
Yeah.
That parking lot did not survive that
Yeah.
that salt.
We had 2 sites in that job.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot of this boils down to our favorite friends, ESQs, because it's funny. There's multiple things you see on a job site when you're plowing that you just shake your head. One is the one job site, they have these people that are scientists and they get in their car and you're like, it's the only car in a whole line. You're like, all right, perfect. They're out of the way. I can plow. So you stop. And then I think they read the manual on how to drive their car before they move away.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 20 plus minutes once they got in their car. They've already cleaned the snow off the outside of the car. Like there's nothing there. It's not like they're trying to defrost. They just like sit in their car. And I'm just like, when I park or when I get in my car, I'm ready to move. Like that's just a different world, but they do that. And then I still had that picture on my phone. It was snowing. It was about 8 a.m. And a young lady's walking through the parking lot in her high heels, carrying her snow boots.
Yeah, the
And you're like,
that's
here's
required
your
that you
sign.
The company required that you wear appropriate footwear.
Yeah.
In
Carrying your
snowstorms.
appropriate footwear
She was
does not
carrying
count.
them while
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, there's
I
just
thought you were going to say, remember the guy with that red car that used to park in the corner of the
Oh,
lot?
yeah.
You'd have the whole lot clear except for the back that you pushed into.
Mm.
That you had to move.
Well,
And-
that's also
and he
like
would
a
pull into there.
study on people too, because that's their parking spot
That's
normally
his
when the
parking
parking
spot.
lot's full. But there's nobody there that day, and they still park in that
In
one
that
spot.
spot.
Mm.
And you're just like truly amazed. Because I mean, I guess we don't really. I mean, I guess we have like spots where we park, but like not that like someone's in the one, you move to the other. Like it's
Right.
not a big deal. You're not
Right.
going to be like, I'm going to wait 3 hours to park in that spot. Like
Yeah.
good grief. So you see a lot of funny things like that.
You do.
You do eat a lot of fast food from places that
Hey,
are open.
you know what we can actually talk about? It's not snow related, but it sort of is because we end up on snowstorms and Thanksgiving. Is guess what Brian had?
You break out the gobbler.
For the first time ever.
He's
You
never
go
had
bowl
one
or
before.
did you go
I
sandwich?
did the sandwich. I did the
Okay,
sandwich. You do
okay.
the bowl?
I do the bowl now.
Oh shoot! I feel like I messed up.
No, the sandwich
you
is
should
more
have the
legitimate.
sandwich.
Okay.
It's just the bowl's a little cleaner and easier to
Less carbs,
manage.
too.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, yeah, we were traveling. I was coming home from that tournament. We've been cold all day long. Addie's like, hey, I need something to eat. And I'm like, well, let's just grab something and keep moving. So we stopped at that Wawa there. And I was like, I think I'm going to do it. If it just feels like,
It's the right season. You had a little sleet. You're feeling like it's
yeah, it was cold. We were warming up. I got it like toasted. And it was good. I liked it.
He told me about it, and I was like, well, wait, you got your first gobbler like this year? And he was like, no, I've never gotten one. I was like, wait,
Yeah.
all the times we've talked about this,
Yeah.
you've never had the gobbler? And he was like, no. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, that's
It is not a sandwich you can eat easily in the car. So
That's
the
why I
bowl,
switched to the bowl.
Yeah. Okay. I ended up with a little cranberry sauce on myself, and
Yes.
See, I feel like I've never gotten it in the bowl because I feel like that undermines the whole principle was that it was a sandwich. Like now I just have Thanksgiving.
It's just
which is
leftovers.
nice.
It's just leftovers.
Right now it's just leftovers. It's not
Yeah.
the same as
I mean, I've done this with Thanksgiving leftovers. You
Yeah.
put it all in
Yeah.
a sandwich. I've never a roll though. Like the roll is nice. I've done
Yeah.
like 2 slices of bread.
and Wawa rolls are
Yeah.
good. They're not
Yeah.
they're not like outstanding.
No,
but they're good.
They're good.
But I forget where I was. This is going to shift to food, but I forget where I was, and they were talking about the fact that like most of the rest of the United States does not have good rolls,
oh,
and they were
They
claiming
say it's
it
about
was
the water. The
Yep.
water.
They were claiming
The
it was about
water.
the
The
water,
water.
whatever. I don't know,
Yeah.
whatever, however you'd like to say
however
it.
you say it.
Yeah. Well,
I
they
feel
always
like
talk
where
about
it's
that.
coming from, it should be water.
H2O.
Yeah. No, they were talking about that. Like one of the brands, it might be Wawa. Like they were putting water filtration systems specifically in their like Florida branches because they do certain things that they want to have consistency no matter where it is. So they were actually trying
They were
to.
trying to make the water like it was from here.
Yeah.
Trying to.
I heard it.
They added pollutants, Brian.
Well, they took all the salt out, that's for sure. But no, I mean that's the thing, and it's funny that one year we had, and there was I still remember I had to take like a 4-month break from going into a Wawa because we had been there so much over the snow season that I couldn't even go in and just like the smell of the coffee in there just was like.
Yeah.
I can't go there. I've just been there. And there was that other little A+ or whatever it is.
A+
Right?
mini market.
And you know how many pieces of that tomato pie we ate over that time? Like there's some good old stories there, but you know,
there's some places.
That's always the fun part of it is getting together. You know, another part is like when you're out doing something.
They turned that deli into like a wedding venue or something. Remember, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're out doing that and you're there in the middle of the night and nobody else is around, and like it's you, a couple of police cars, and basically maybe like a fuel truck on the road at that point in the night, and you could just like,
well, you know, the other thing
got control of it.
And we've talked about this is when you go. Going back to when you leave again. One of the things you have to do as the one who was normally in a truck, right? Like normally. Ford most times would end up in a big machine, but most times I'd be trying to like intercept all the phone calls and manage the client, and I'd be in a truck. And at some point I would leave and I wouldn't stop at any red lights, right? Like once you start plowing, there's nobody on the road. So you like slow down at the red light and you're like, yeah, nobody's coming. I'm just going to go. Especially because you're like in these enclosed areas. So even though you're outside the job, as you jump around, like Vanguard, I'm not going to sit at that light and wait 12 minutes for the light to turn green when no one is coming. And all I'm doing is going to the other side of Vanguard. I'm not waiting. Like, so I pull up, nobody's coming, you go, and you don't think about it, but you got to go home. And all of a sudden you're like, did I just go through a light and a stop sign? Like you just come up like, yep, all clear. Like almost moving. Like down the shore when you get to the end of the shore season and a lot of the lights go to blinking. So you got to stop, but then you go. You don't actually have to wait for it to change.
Right.
Sort of like that. But that's another one is you forget. You know,
or the other thing that's happened to me is like you have the blinking lights for safety on,
and
you leave the job site, and you forget to
drive
turn them off.
with all the flashes.
Yeah, and you're like driving home, and you're like, why are people kind of like moving out of my way? Like things you learn.
You know, unrelated but related one. When we went to meet one of the bigger providers now of snow management services in the U.S., East Coast for sure, and we went to meet with them at their offices a decade ago. This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I was going north and I was going to be on vacation, and Ford flew up so we could have this meeting, and we got there and I picked him up and I was like, Ford, it's the craziest thing. Massachusetts is not known for polite drivers. They have names for Massachusetts drivers. They top New Jersey drivers, and everybody's being so polite, moving out of the way. I like couldn't figure it out. We had just switched vehicles and I had one of Ford's charcoal gray Yukons, which looked exactly like a Massachusetts state trooper vehicle. Like same rims, same colors, same tinted windows.
Right.
And then he realized it when we were driving. He was like, it looks like a state trooper car here. They think you're a trooper. And I thought, man, how great I don't want to be a state trooper, but it would be nice because everybody'd move out of my way. They move like I had to make a left. They'd stop traffic to let me make the left.
Yep.
I thought they were the politest people in the world. Something had gone wrong in Massachusetts. No,
well, especially because those vehicles always went on site, so they had the lighting package. So, like if you looked at that windshield from the outside and you saw the light on the inside of the shield, you would think
you didn't know that they were only amber, but you saw it
because they weren't on.
You would think it was unmarked. Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
wow, that's funny.
Yeah, so it was
snow at its finest. But no, I mean, I think that we'll see if it lasts longer into the season. The people are like, it's amazing too. Like, we were talking about a couple weeks ago how people are like, oh, how does the economy, whatever. And now people, because they know we plow snow, they're like, oh, what's the snow season? Freaking, I don't know. Look out the window. We're better chance of knowing it than.
I got 27 forecasts, but
and all of them are like most accurate in America.
Yeah.
Based on what?
Yeah.
Like, you deal with it when it comes. That's the other cool part about snow is that it's a instant decision-making experience.
Yeah.
You make a call and you got to ride with it, good, bad, or indifferent. But there's planning, aka how many team members, what equipment. But once you're there, you got what you got in front of you, and you better figure out how you're going to use those puzzle pieces to make it work.
Well, I was going to say Tom, and I'll mention Tom, but the one I remember it was that year, whatever it was, 12, 13. And we had put down more salt than anyone should ever put down because I was gambling that we would be able to hold it off. And it snowed a lot. And we had a lot of snow sitting, and I was like, you got to picture this. We're all younger.
Sure.
I'm younger in my development of like being responsible for more at Berg, and very young in that responsibility. And I have Tom, who's been doing this a long time, and Ford, who owns the company. And we sat down and I was like, we are going to wait. It will work. With no confidence it would work. I mean, I said I was very confident, but I had no idea if this would work. I was like, I just knew the money of it. I knew that if I had put that much down and I pushed it off and had to do it again, I would lose money. And I didn't want to do that. Ford would be pretty upset with me if I lost money. So, you know what I mean? I was like, this will work. But I'll give you the Tom Berg forecast here. Which is what made me think of Tom is Tom says it always rains 36 inches in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we're 10 inches short, which we all know we're in a drought. So in Tom's math, at some point this has to level out. If it levels out in the next 6 months, Tom says everybody better look out. He said we could get 100 inches of snow. I was like, Tom, if Paulie listens to this podcast, he may get out of his machine right there and just call us and tell us that he's retired just at the theory that this could happen. Paulie could be like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing that.
Is that a thing? Have we ever had a season with 100 inches?
Not since I've been plowing. I mean, we got like 60 inches. Was the most
66 was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had it is a lot for us.
We've had a couple like real like blizzard, nor'easter, heavy snows, but I can't remember a season where we.
I think that's when you actually need more consistency because we had that 1 year. It was the years before we started working together, but we had 224 inches.
Yeah, 224 inches
within like a week, like back to back. Because I remember I rented a backhoe because we didn't have anything that big at the point, and I rented it to help clean off. And then I saw the next storm coming, and like the rental company's like, "Hey, you gonna bring that back?" I'm like, "Nope, you can't have it back." And the guy goes, "Well, possession's 9/10 of it, so keep on going." And
that storm is the one where I fell asleep on Route 30 at Sugartown Road with my foot on the brake at a light after working like 24 hours, and then I went to the guy Tom who ran the company, and I was like, "Tom, I've been working like 28 hours straight. I am beat. I don't think I should be in a truck." And he said, "Oh no, that isn't safe at all. Get in this backhoe." And I switched to the backhoe, and about 20 minutes later, I completely sawed off a tree at Suburban Square. I was backing up, and I went to spin, and the boom caught the tree, and I felt it, and I looked, and there was nothing there. I was like, I guess nothing. And then I came back around, and the tree was just sawed off. The boom just completely sawed the tree off. Yeah. I was like, this was a bad idea.
This isn't good.
It's much safer, bigger cab.
Much safer. It's a bigger piece. I wasn't on the road, I guess, was the theory.
That's true. So there it is, folks. Snow season is probably coming.
Potentially in front of us.
Yeah, it's seasonally, we're approaching a time where we would start to expect snow. And we'll see what happens. So thanks for joining us today. We hope you got something from this. And we hope you come back for another episode.